Welcome back to the Celtics Roundtable, powered by CLNS Media. I'm Jonathan Levy, joined by Matthew Ignal, Lucky's Pipe, and draft extraordinaire Cole Zwicker from the Stepback, as well as the What's on Draft podcast. Guys, listen up. The Celtics have got possibly 2 more top 5 picks coming in 2018. It's pretty darn awesome. This may be our last season of rooting against other teams and checking up every single day. Did the Nets win? Did the Nets lose? We can do that with the Lakers now, too. It's pretty sweet. But the question is, what's at the end of that rainbow? Is there a pot of gold? We have the man to tell us all about it, Cole Zwicker.
Let's talk about the guy that you have number 1 on your board, Luka Doncic. I'll ask you, point blank. Do you think that he could be a transcendent talent that the Celtics really are looking for?
I absolutely do. I think that he brings everything you want skill-wise. He's 6'8". He can shoot off the catch, off the dribble. He's a maestro as far as pick and roll. Like, his feel for the game is probably a little bit past Lonzo Ball's, and he has much more functional skill. Like, he doesn't have that weak handle that really hinders ball. He can shoot off the dribble much more fluidly. He's 6'8". He's really everything you look for. I call him like a primary initiating wing. He can run your offense. He's a selfless player. He'll make the extra pass. And I'm just talking about things that are on film that I see. I mean, if you look at his stats for his age, what he's doing in Europe is unprecedented. Like, his team, he plays on his team. They're completely stacked with guys. And he performs. He plays in crunch time a lot. This guy he's the real deal as far as being an 18-year-old that looks like a transcendent skill player. And we've seen, there are athleticism concerns as far as will he be able to beat, especially bigger wings one-on-one. But he's so adept in pick and roll that I think that he's going to be able to survive that. So, yeah, I do think that maybe like a Nikola Jokic, but for wings, that's kind of who he reminds me of, as someone who is so outlier as a playmaker, as a thinker, that I really do think he can be a transcendent talent.
So you ultimately, Cole, would take Doncic number 1 in 2017. Is this fair to say, since you're calling him a transcendent talent? Would you have taken him number 1 overall? You would have. How about Michael Porter? Would you have done the same with him? Where does he rate for you?
He's tougher because I've seen him in person 3 or 4 times now, and what he shows at this level, it's really hard to gauge how it translates, just because he's such a better athlete and positional size-wise than everybody he faces in high school for the most part. He went against Marvin Bagley, who we'll get to if he reclassifies one-on-one. I saw that in person, and it was fascinating. I mean, he could stay with Bagley easily. He locked him down during the stretch of the game. But overall, you don't get a great sense of his court sense as far as, can he dribble in traffic? Can he read a pick and roll? Can he operate in those settings? It's impossible to know right now. We have to see that on the college level, especially paired with his impact defense. So what I know he can do is shoot the hell out of the ball. Even if his stats don't support it as much, I think he might be low 30s as far as high school shooting. That guy can hit shots. He can raise up over anybody from 30 feet and knock down shots contested, double teamed. I've seen it many times, and his form is tremendously fluid. He got great elevation, great mechanics, comes off his wrist great. I mean, that's one thing I really like to gauge in person is the shot mechanics. You can just gauge a lot by the rotation on the ball, his foot alignment, all that stuff, and that all checks the box. So it's really, for me, if he shows at Missouri that he can play make for others, if he has decent feel, if he defends at a high level, this guy's 6'10". He's not a traditional wing as far as 6'7", 6'6". He's a legit 6'10". So he can play the 4. And his quickness level with the ball, his ability in face-up situations like the mid-post, and his athleticism to score is pretty unprecedented going back at least a few drafts. So if he shows that feel, I think you can argue him against Fultz. If he came out right now, I would have them in the same tier, but it's a little harder to sell just because we have not seen the elements of his game that we need to see.
Do you think that he has the overall all-around scoring profile to be, one of the 2 or 3 best scorers in the NBA, given that's where he's probably going to bring most of his value?
Yes. I do. I think that he has the fluidity shooting off the dribble, especially off the catch. He has the first step, the explosion to finish at the rim. His size is just tremendous. He doesn't have great length. He's got a 7'1" wingspan, which is fine. But what he can play in the modern game as far as playing the 4, I don't know how you really guard that guy because he can rebound. He's not a high-level rim protector, but he can block shots. He has decent instincts there. So he can probably start at the 3, swing over to the 4, and there just aren't a lot of guys like him in the league. I mean, there's a handful of guys that come into the league that tall with that kind of physical talent that are that polished as shooters and as overall scorers.
No, he gives me that more freak vibe, that unicorn vibe, if you will. That's why I like what I've seen from him more than Don. How do you say that? Doncic.
I say Doncic, but that might be wrong.
Doncic. Anyways, I like him.
Wasn't there a time where everybody thought it was Tilakina and not Nilakina?
Yes.
All right. So yeah, this is the grace period, I think.
Yeah, so I buy freaks like just give me those like if you have that gene, I'd like to buy into that. Maybe you get a Giannis, maybe you don't, but
So
Bamba.
Porter averaged 11 rebounds a game as a high school senior. Do rebounds translate? I mean, I know because you're saying he's like so much physically, he's bigger than everyone else and more athletic than everyone else. Is it reasonable to think he's going to be able to rebound, maybe not this well, but nearly this well at the even at the Division I, like the high Division I level, like at Missouri, let alone the NBA?
I think so. I mean, like his size, again, 6'10", got good reach, and he can high point balls. Like this guy can really explode and get, vertical and get balls. He can like get them in traffic as well. He's not just somebody who boxes out and can get rebounds that way against guys that aren't as physically gifted as him. He's not just boxing out smaller guys. Like he can really go up and get it. So I think he can rebound, especially, I mean, at the 3, he certainly can. At the 4, I definitely think he can hold up, even in the NBA over time as he continues to add strength.
Is he second on your big board, which may or may not exist in actuality?
It does. It does kind of tentatively exist. These are the 2 guys I'm most certain of. After this, there's like a next kind of less fluid tier. But yeah, I have Doncic clearly ahead of him, but he's clearly second. So it's kind of like tier 1, tier 2, even though I don't feel great about putting them separate tiers. So maybe tier 1A, tier 1B, and then tier 2.
Okay. Well, let's get into tier 2. So, we talk about the centers, DeAndre Ayton and Mo Bamba. Ayton, at least on paper, is extremely intriguing to me with that unicorn potential to, he's like 7 foot with like a 7'5" wingspan, can step out, hit the 3, presumably will be able to block shots at the rim with that sort of physical profile. But the fact that the guy has racked up perhaps some mentality and aggressiveness flags as a big man, that worries me greatly. We talked about this last time we had you on, Cole, but is there a chance out there that this is just like some sort of misevaluation? He's like still growing into his body, or is there anything that really gives you great worry with him, at least from the mental standpoint?
Yeah, it's just his motor is not always running hot, and for 5s, that's a huge issue because you want those guys to rebound consistently. He's a fantastic rebounder. That's one thing he does pretty well, but just run the floor, make rotations, block shots. My thing with him is sometimes he just doesn't finish plays. Like it's kind of like Willie Cauley-Stein-esque. Well, he'll slide a couple times. He has all the physical talent in the world, but he won't make that third slide, and he'll kind of reach in instead of trying to block. He'll do stuff like that you're like, what are you doing, man? Like it's not his body. Like he looks like a cyborg. Like if you built an NBA center in like a vacuum as far as like somebody who's going to translate in a lab, like he's that guy. I mean, at 17, he looked like he belonged in the NBA. I saw him at the Hoop Summit 2 years ago, and it was insane. But, I mean, in the game, he disappeared. And there's too much of that on his film when you watch him in high school. Like, even when he went against Mo Bamba, which he has, I think, 2 or 3 times. I saw one of them, and Bamba bested him to at least a certain extent where Ayton shouldn't have allowed that to happen, because when it comes to physical talent and, like, skill level and stuff, Ayton's on a different level. It's just – I feel like sometimes he just checks himself out of games. And that's something that all the NBA executives, they note is, like, DeAndre Ayton can be the best player in this draft if he wants to be. It's just about extracting that want to, and that's more concerning from the 5 spot because you want defense, you want consistent defensive effort, rebounding, shot blocking from that position. You can survive lack of defense from your point guard at times, but you can't really in the modern NBA with your 5. So it's definitely a concern.
I mean, I think one of the reasons why you see Ayton checking out so much is he's thinking about all the different meals he's going to be eating from HelloFresh, guys. It's the meal kit delivery service that makes cooking more fun, so you can focus on the whole experience, not just the final plate. Each week, HelloFresh creates delicious new recipes with step-by-step instructions designed to take around 30 minutes so that everyone from novices to seasoned home cooks like Lucky's Pipe, short on time, can make tasty meals. HelloFresh sources the freshest ingredients measured to exact quantities needed, so there's no food waste, and employ how many, Matt? How many? 2 full-time registered dietitians on staff who review each recipe to ensure it is nutritionally balanced. They deliver food to your doorstep in a recyclable insulated box for free. And they are now offering light summer meals and have just introduced breakfast options. And now, loyal viewers and listeners of CLNS Media can get a very special offer. Use the promo code BEAT30 for $30 off your first week of HelloFresh. Again, support the Celtics Roundtable and try HelloFresh for free. Simply visit HelloFresh.com and enter the promo code BEAT30. Okay, back to the Roundtable. We've been talking about Ayton. Let's get into Bamba a little bit more, though.
I'm sorry. I got two questions. I'm sorry, Levy. I'm just thinking, because I'm just so intrigued by Ayton.
Okay, sure.
I feel like the Celtics want like a unicorn guy, like an Al Horford type. I think that's more intriguing than that. It's more intriguing to me personally. I have two questions for Cole, and I'll wrap them in one. One, how would you characterize Ayton's basketball IQ? And two, how do you feel that is like fit at Arizona in particular? Like, is that the place to bring out his strengths?
I like his basketball IQ, at least from passing from a standstill. That's something that I noticed watching him from the Hoop Summit 2 years ago to Adidas Nations last summer, is he really improved as a passer. He could make those like high post reads pretty fluidly. He looked comfortable, like flashing the high post, quickly moving the ball. I have not seen it like putting it on the floor. Like I haven't seen like a Karl Anthony Towns context where he can like dribble and pass on the move, and he looks really comfortable doing that. I have not seen that yet, but he does have good enough feel as a passer and rotating on defense. He knows where to be most of the time when he wants to. So I'm not really concerned about that. As far as Arizona, they never really get the best out of their defensive players for the most part. At least like Aaron Gordon types, for example, like I think his Arizona stats really suppress his defensive value, and that's something that a lot of scouts noticed. So maybe it doesn't translate so much on paper. We don't know what he's going to play with. Like he might play the 4 next to Ristich and stuff like that. So he might play 2 big conventional lineups. Arizona's known for doing that. Markkanen even played like the 2 last year a lot of the time. So we don't know if he's going to actually like play like the full-time 5. He's made some concerning comments, like he doesn't think he's a 5. He thinks he's more of a 4. And that's kind of like, those are the kind of things that really set guys off for them. Cause it's like, no, dude, you're a 5. Like you're an NBA 5.
We hear that with Horford all the time. So
yeah,
we're
like
okay.
Horford's at least like skilled enough where you can like dribble and pass. Yeah. Like Ayton's more of a pure unicorn type. Like he's kind of like, he's not exactly like Porzingis, but he's more like Miles Turner-esque, maybe a better version of that. He has more physical talent than Turner does. So maybe that kind of player doesn't really have like Horford's fluidity. He's not that, I don't think he's that smart. Like Horford's a really, really good prospect. Like he could grab and go at Florida and stuff and like make passes. He's a pretty special guy. But yeah, Ayton's a guy that he has unicorn equity, can protect the rim, rebound at a really high rate, and shoot threes. We'll see if he can do anything off the bounce at Arizona. I doubt he gets those opportunities, but it's all about motor for me.
I'm so excited to see him. I just like the idea of him. I hope it works out. It probably won't, but we'll find out. All right, I'm sorry, Levy. Mo Bamba.
No, it's cool. I mean, we got to hear the phrase unicorn equity, which is the first time I've ever heard those 2 words together in my life. It's awesome.
Trademark there.
So Mo Bamba, yeah, tell us about him, because I feel like, at least when I hear people talk about the 2018 draft, they're really talking about 4 guys, and Bamba's the 4th guy. So what's his story? What can we look for if the Celtics, come up number 4 in the lottery, and this is still the order somehow, which it never is. But let's pretend. What do we think about Mo Bamba? Where do you have him?
I mean, I have him 4th or 3rd, actually. I have him a little bit ahead of Ayton right now. Ayton will move ahead of him if he answers the questions. He has bigger concerns, in my opinion. Bamba looks pretty clear-cut to me as far as what he's going to be. He has the ridiculous 7'9" wingspan. He'd have the longest wingspan in the NBA, longer than Gobert. And that's kind of his archetype, right? He's kind of that outlier length guy. But this guy can really cover ground. That's something that a lot of people don't touch on. He's really mobile as a rim runner. Like he can change ends very fluidly. I saw him close out on a couple guys in this scrimmage at the Hoop Summit. Man, this is local team, like this lower level team. This guy was about to shoot a 3, had no idea that Bamba was going to close out on him. And he covers like the entire length of the court and challenges him. Just scared the hell out of this kid. But like, that's the kind of mobility we're talking about. He can guard the perimeter. He can guard the interior for sure. Like, Ayton and a couple other individual matchups has tried to dislodge him and give him a jump hook. And Bamba even got knocked off his spot and still blocked the shot because his arms are so long. Like he can just erase the sun in there. And he's not like the kind of guy where you look at him, he practices like threes in the corner. Doesn't look great. It's not like super fluid, but he does make a good percentage of them, like a decent percentage to where you don't look at him and say he's never going to shoot the ball. It's conceptually possible that he will develop a corner 3. And when you talk about what he brings defensively is he can be a defensive player of the year kind of guy. And if he can shoot a corner 3, like, I mean, he has number 1 in this class equity. Like that's the kind of guy we're looking at as far as if he reaches his upside. And he has that motor. He plays hard. He's a really smart kid, like a great interview. So I think the Celtics are really going to like him. He can rebound at a high level, protect the rim. 2 things the Celtics need. If he can shoot the ball, it's going to be like a freaking awesome pick.
Is his free throw like good mechanics wise and such?
It's not bad. Like, he looks comfortable there. It's not as bad as you'd think. He can hit some mid-range shots. It's still a work in progress, and it looks like it's probably 2 to 3 years away from being solid, maybe even more than that. But you can tell with a lot of bigs, you look at them and you're like, he's never going to be able to shoot the ball. It just looks rigid. He's not comfortable at all. Bamba will actually make it look relatively fluid. Not DeAndre Ayton fluid or Wendell Carter fluid, but it looks conceptually possible from a standstill, off the catch, really simply. He's not Porzingis, of course, but like just from the corner, he can hit a spot up 3 in time. It's not inconceivable.
You keep mentioning his wingspan, and Lucky is going to hyperventilate.
Huge, dude. 7'9"?
7'9".
So I mean, he could develop into this Gobert type. Maybe he could shoot corner threes. Does he have the feel and basketball IQ to do anything else on offense, or is he really like a fifth option?
He's a coordinated rim runner right now. I mean, he has great hands. That's something you notice about him. He can like reach around and grab balls with like one hand. He's got big hands. So that's something that is promising. He's not someone who's going to play make or like pass at a high level. Like he's not Horford at all. He doesn't even have that kind of upside as a passer. He can make some simple stuff, but it's mostly just he's going to be a pick and roll kind of dive man. Maybe he develops that ability to hit a pass on the short roll, like a skip pass. But yeah, he's mostly a guy who can change ends of the court, play at a high pace, and dive to the rim.
Nice pair with Doncic.
So one other guy who we've already heard mentioned, but we don't know much about, is Marvin Bagley. So he's considering reclassifying to the 2017-18 class, and then he would be eligible to be drafted. And where would he ultimately end up in your rankings? And do you think he would be would he make this a solid top 5? Would he be above some of these two centers? Like where would you have him, and what's his skill set ultimately look like?
He would definitely be top 5. He is probably the best big man athlete I've ever seen in person. He can like jump straight from a standstill. He can jump up, and it looks like he can touch the top of the backboard like bounce wise. I mean, that's probably a little bit hyperbolic, but like seriously, I've never seen anybody jump that high just from staying there. Defensive rebounds. This guy's a freak athlete. It's just he's not very long, and his position is a little bit more uncertain in the league. I don't think he's a full-time 5. He's kind of like Anthony Davis, kind of light. I'm not saying he's that kind of player yet. I haven't seen enough of him. He doesn't have that kind of length. I don't think he's going to be that kind of defensive player, but just overall that kind of athlete, but a little bit dicier of a fit at the 5. So it depends on his perimeter skills. I've talked to a lot of guys who've seen him really dribble the ball, pass on the move, shoot threes fluidly. His shot looks pretty good. I only saw him shoot mid-range shots, but he can extend in time. He's probably a 4 to me, just with his lack of length. He's got like a 7'1" wingspan. But if he can show perimeter skills and he goes to Duke and they play Carter at the 5, him at the 4, I mean, for one, they're going to probably win the tournament because that's just an insane freaking 4-5 lineup. But he is an insane athlete. If he shows the skill level, like, yeah, he's going to be, I mean, he's everybody's consensus number 1 guy in 2019 for the most part, which is a much weaker class. If you were classified to this class, like you're looking at like a very, very legit top 5.
Better hope the Lakers suck.
I know. It's like, wow. Like, imagine, like, the Nets are going to suck. I can just say that. I feel very comfortable. The Lakers, I don't know if they're going to be that. If they're going to, maybe have to get a little lucky to be in the top 5 for the Lakers pick. But, man, if they can get 2 of these 5 guys, maybe now you've got your complementary pieces in Tatum and Brown, and now you got your actual star pieces in these 2 guys, and now you're really somewhere.
That's we talked about 5 guys, and the shortest one was 6'8", and the rest was like 6'10" up. That's big. That's big dudes.
We need big guys, man. We got no big guys.
It's good. I love it. It's perfect.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this edition of the Celtics Roundtable. We've gotten all the way through the top 5 for Cole Zwicker, Matthew Ignal, Lucky's Pipe. I'm Jonathan Levy. Thanks for listening and watching. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're not liking the show or you're not watching the show, at least we assume you like it, but you're listening to it on iTunes or any, a podcast app of any kind at all, go ahead and subscribe. We do accept 5-star ratings. On Twitter, we're at CLNS Roundtable, and we'll see you next time on the Roundtable.